My name is Paul Timmons. I'm the Career Services Director in the College of Liberal Arts, which means that I work with a team of experts who help CLA students clarify their career plans, secure internships or other experiences that will help them build their resume, and find jobs or get admitted into graduate school when they graduate. One of the things I love about my job is that every year I get to see our new grads cross the stage at graduation and begin exciting careers. Some begin positions in Minnesota's Fortune 500 companies like Target or General Mills. Others pursue rewarding positions in government or nonprofit organizations. And still others head to law school, medical school, or other graduate programs. When I think about many of the most successful graduates I've known, one thing stands out in my mind. They didn't wait until their senior year to begin thinking about their future. If you're a freshman, your future full-time position probably seems like it's a long ways off. But you're in a great position now to take some small steps that will help you land a better job when you graduate. One of those steps is to develop a strong resume that you can use when you apply to part-time jobs or internships. You might have written a resume before, but now is a great time to create a new version that shows the skills you're gaining as a student at the University of Minnesota. Even if you've written a resume before, I want you to think for a minute about why you write one in the first place. A resume is not meant to be a complete listing of everything you've done in your life. Instead, I find it helpful to think of a resume as being a little bit like an advertisement in a magazine or a newspaper. Ads don't tell you everything that you need to know about a product, but they catch your attention, and they help you understand the key characteristics of the product. And if they work, they make you want to learn more. This is a little like a well-written resume. It should explain the key skills and experiences you have so that you can use it to introduce yourself to a potential employer and to make him or her want to learn more about you by offering you a job interview. You might have learned some resume rules in the past. Generally, you really can break any of those rules if you have a good reason, except there are a few rules that are absolutely unbreakable if you want to keep your resume out of the trash. Your resume can't have even a single typo or misspelled word. This shows a lack of attention to detail, and if an employer has other candidates, she'll move on to them almost immediately. Have someone proofread your work. I'll tell you later how to connect with the CLA Career Services staff so they can help proofread your resume and offer suggestions. Also, don't exaggerate or lie on your resume. I've seen too many cases where candidates have been caught embellishing their resume and where those candidates were embarrassed at their job interview or, worse yet, later fired from their job. Just make sure your resume contains accurate, positive information that will help an employer understand your best characteristics. The best way to start your resume is to outline what you want to include, including a few basic categories, but realizing that you might choose to add other categories later. Take a look at this sample, which is from a real U of M student. I've just made up a fictional name for her. Let's walk through the main parts of her resume. At the top of the resume is a heading which includes all the basic information an employer would need to contact you. Generally, your heading should include your name in a font size that's slightly larger than the other text on the page, your mailing address, a phone number you can be contacted at, and make sure you have a professional sounding voicemail introduction, and finally, an email address. The next section in our sample resume is an objective. Having an objective on your resume is optional, but if you know what type of position you'd like, a well-written objective can be a great way of focusing your reader's attention and highlighting the best skills that you bring to the table. In this case, the student has done two great things. First, she knows what type of position she's looking for and what organization she wants to work with. Second, she's focusing on the skills that she brings to the table, not what she's hoping that the employer can give her. For the next section, you have a choice to think about. The next two sections of your resume probably will include your education and then another that lists your volunteer and work experience. The section that's listed first should depend on which one contains the best information. Generally, I tell students that they want to have their strongest content as close as possible to the top of the resume. So if your previous work experience is closely related to the job you're hoping to land, you might want to have your experience section come first, followed by your education section. Or, if in doubt, start with your education section. Your U of M education is one of your strengths and will catch the eye of a lot of potential employers. In our sample resume, the author started with her education section. The format of this section can vary, but in general, you should include the university's name, your degree, your graduation date, your major, your minor if you have one, and your GPA if it's strong. The general guideline is if your GPA is above a 3.0 to leave it on, and if it's below a 3.0 to take it off. If you haven't yet decided on a major, it's fine to simply say undecided major. If you've attended more than one school, list your most current education first, followed by previous degrees or schooling. As you can see from this example, you can also include things like study abroad experiences. One last thing to note here. Generally, now that you're in college, my suggestion would be to leave your high school education off of your resume. Employers you meet in the future will mainly want to know where you're going to get your college degree from. Next, you'll include a section or more than one section that lists the experiences you have. If you're tuning me out at all, now's the time to listen up. In my experience, the experience section is a part of the resume that seems easy to write but can be deceptively hard. But if you do a good job here, you'll really separate your resume from all the others in the stack. Experience should be thought of very broadly. It can include lots of different types of experience, such as paid work, volunteer projects, internships, leadership activities on campus, or other experiences. One other important point. If you're a junior in college, I would suggest that all the experience on your resume would generally be things you've done in college. But if you're younger than a junior, when you're just starting out, it's fine to include experiences from high school. Ideally, you'd list 2 or 3 separate jobs or volunteer experiences in this section. You'll start with your current or most recent experience and then work backwards in time as you move down the page. Let's go back to our example. As you can see, our writer has included 3 separate experiences in her own resume. She's still doing 2 of them and finished one a couple of years ago. When you write your experience section, for each separate entry, you'll generally list 5 things: your job title, the name of the organization, the location of the organization, the dates you worked there, and a description of the position using bullet points to highlight the main tasks that you did there and the main skills you used. As you write your own bullet points describing your work, I want you to keep some important things in mind. Bullet statements can bring your resume to the top of the pile if they're written correctly. Think about it. Unless you're applying for a job that is exactly like the last one you had, you have some work to do to convince your potential employer that you have the skills that it will take to do his or her job. The best written resume bullet points will illustrate your most relevant skills for your potential employer. Generally speaking, the formula to follow for every bullet point is skill verb plus details, and then, where possible, add results. In my formula, I always put results in parentheses because I realize it's not always possible to explain the results of your work. But if you can, you should. One of the bullet points used in our sample resume reads, "Tutor English and literacy to Spanish-speaking immigrants to help with job advancement." First, use an action verb to start each bullet statement. Use a variety of different verbs and make sure to avoid vague words or phrases like worked, duties included, or responsible for. Instead, think of active verbs that convey the skills that your future employer can really use. In our sample, you can see that the verb tutor is used. Note that the author is writing in present tense because she's still doing this job. If it was a previous job that she was no longer doing, she would use past tense. When you're writing your own skill verbs, click the link at the bottom of the screen if you'd like to see an extensive list of verbs to help you think about possible verbs to use. Next, add details that will explain your experience. Where possible, it's always great to add information, including numbers, so that your reader knows a little about the scope of your work. Here, our resume writer is telling us that she tutored English and literacy to Spanish-speaking immigrants. And finally, in the last part of the formula, you add information about the results of your work. It might not always be possible to list results, but you should really try to. After all, this is where you can tell your reader how effective you were when you were using your skills. As you think about results, ask yourself, as a result of my action, what happened? What happened to me? What happened to my client? What happened to others involved? Or ask yourself why you performed the work task or how you knew you succeeded. In our example, the author has tried to give some results related to why she did the work she did. She said, to help with job advancement. Writing effective bullet points isn't easy, but it really is important that you spend the time here to make them as strong as possible. For lots more information on writing bullet points, including some tips on strengthening the ones you've already written, click the link at the bottom of this page. The content we've covered so far will be enough for most of you. But keep in mind, this is your resume, and you can rename the sections we've already talked about or add other sections that better fit your own situation. I've seen students include sections describing their language skills, their computer skills, extracurricular activities, or really anything else that you think will be relevant to your potential employer. Just a few other final thoughts. Generally, I tell students to not use the templates that you can find in Microsoft Word or on the internet. Templates can be great to get you started with your writing, but often they make it difficult to rearrange text in the ways that you want. Also, if you are using a template, you run the very real risk that your resume will look very similar to someone else's. And the idea here is to be unique. Also, when you're doing your final proofreading, make sure that you're staying very consistent with your formatting. In most cases, students should keep their resume to one page only. Employers typically have a large number of resumes to look through, so it's important to get your ideas across quickly. Remember, this is like an ad in a magazine. When was the last time you saw a two-page ad that was packed with tons of words? Finally, when it comes time to apply for jobs, you'll want to slightly tailor your resume to each position you're applying for. If you have the job or internship description, it's like an open book test. They're telling you what skills they need. If you have those skills, your resume needs to highlight them. You've already seen one sample resume from Sanford Centennial, and here's another one from Elliot Burton. Again, it's a real student's resume. I've only changed her name. Both of these sample resumes and many more are included in a binder that we have in the CLA Career Services office. We keep that binder there so that you can review other U of M students' resumes to get ideas on formatting or to see how others have described some of the same activities that you've probably done on campus. That binder is available for your use in the CLA Career Services office in room 411 of the Science Teaching and Student Services building. When you're working on your resume, remember you're not alone. The staff in Career Services is willing to help. One of the best things that you can do for your resume is to stop by our office to have your rough draft reviewed. We have peer advisors who are specialists in helping CLA students with their resumes. They're available to help you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and no appointment is necessary. We also have computers available for your use, and we can show you GoldPass, which is a huge online database of internships and volunteer positions you can explore, and it also includes full-time jobs that you can look at. And finally, if you want more information on resumes, check out our online resume guide by clicking the link below. Thanks for your attention today, and good luck as you're working on your resume. Remember, writing a strong resume now is one of the small steps you can take to set yourself up for career success in the future.